this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Lenovo ThinkPad T431s. The T series is their nice premium line of very portable machines. The S is the skinnier one, 3.6 pounds, quite thin. Obviously it opens full up just like the ThinkPad Carbon, and we're going to look at it now. Well, this is an attractive, slim, and light machine, isn't it? Look at that. It looks just as cool as the ThinkPad Carbon when we do this. Now this is a pre-release piece of hardware that Lenovo sent us, so if you notice a little bit of alignment problems here and there, don't worry, when you get one shipped to you, they won't have that problem. Ours is experimental, shall we say, but late model experimental at least. This isn't obviously the way you would actually use this computer. It just looks kind of cool. I just want to show you how slim it is right here. This is 0.8 inches when it's closed, so pretty slim. Not one of the world's skinniest Ultrabooks, but for something that's business rugged, Lenovo has really slimmed this up compared to a couple of years ago. Pretty impressed with that. 3.6 pounds, also very light. The usual raven black finish here, kind of a little modernized, a little bit less rubbery. It doesn't show fingerprints as much, which is quite nice. And rugged as all get out. We have the usual magnesium alloy roll cage here, strong construction. Docking port, you business users, yes, it has a docking port, good times there. Docking ports are optional. They have a Series 3 dock with USB 3.0 mini dock option as well, too, and then there's a mini dock plus, so a couple of those to keep you, well docked when you're at the office. Usual ventilation holes on the bottom, rubber feet right here. Take a look at the side. And we have the new rectangular style quick charge connector, and this guy does charge up very quickly. RJ45 Ethernet. Legacy VGA, yes, you business users need this. The rest of you who are watching this are going to giggle and all that kind of thing, but really, plenty of people still need VGA, especially business folks. We've got our USB 3.0 port here, 3.5 millimeter combo headphone jack, card slot. Got a smart card reader over here. Another USB port on this side, mini display port, very useful if you want to connect to higher resolution monitors greater than HDMI resolution, and some cooling vents over here, and we've got our security lock slot. Sturdy hinges in the back. One thing you don't generally have to worry about with Lenovo is sturdy. The thing is pretty darn strong. And as we open it up, you can see how thin this portion actually is right here. This is not a touchscreen. This is one of your basic business notebooks. Well, not so basic, it's pretty high-end, but in terms of, it's not going to have a lot of those consumer features like a touchscreen, for example. What it does have is a matte display 1600 by 900 resolution. So you got some pretty good resolution there. You can see just a teeny bit of glare. We have some direct sunlight out of a window, and it's really dealing with that quite well. My biggest complaint with this is it's so lacking in contrast. It's hard on the eyes. I just wonder why Lenovo wants to do that to their business users. Everybody really cares about contrast on their eyes. Colors are reasonably good. Saturation is not super duper wow great, but it's pretty nice. You can see the reds and the usual Lenovo desktop guy's helmet over here and his orange uniform looking pretty good. So no complaints when it comes to color for a business notebook, but contrast on text, you'll see when we open a web browser and some other things, just really a little hard on the eyes. However, resolution certainly is good. 250 nits of brightness, so adequate for indoor use, even passable for outdoor use, even though that's not that bright because, well, this doesn't glare. And Lenovo's usual trick right here goes flat. And you can see how we have, this is a TN panel, we've got a color inversion going on and black inversion, all that kind of thing when you flatten it out. So obviously you're not going to flatten it out unless you really are needing to use it that way. Why you would need to, I always wonder about that, but hey, it's a kind of a cool trick. There it is. The good news is because there is so much display movement over here, you can find the sweet spot. With a TN panel, you're going to need that because you can see, again, how it's inverting as we move along. So you can angle it just right and far back if you need to, depending on your sitting position, to make it as readable as possible. We take a look at the keyboard deck here. We'll see Lenovo's new style keyboard with the smile keys. As always, excellent keyboard, great tactile feel, plenty of separation. This is a 14-inch machine, 14-inch display, so plenty of room on the keyboard deck, recessed a little bit. So no complaints there. It has backlighting. You can turn that on with the FN and the spacebar key. A little hard to see in bright lighting, but it's white backlighting and it is adequate, and you can change the level of backlighting. We have 2 levels going through here. But the big change is, here's their new trackpad. This is the 5-button model right here. So you've got the usual buttonless trackpad design with 2 buttons here. It clicks, right click, left click, that kind of thing. But instead of having discrete clickers for our beloved IntelliPoint TrackPoint little guy right here, you now use the upper end of the trackpad, which makes perfect sense. We don't really need to have extra hardware clickers up there. In practice, it all works well. Lenovo does a great job with their touchpads. This guy is responsive, it's stable, the buttons work nicely, it's oversized. It's good stuff. It's available with your choice of Windows 7 or Windows 8. You can get Home Premium on the Windows 7 end or Pro, and you can get Pro version on Windows 8, 64-bit, obviously, 64-bit full Intel Core CPUs here. These are third generation Ivy Bridge CPUs. We're really not seeing a whole lot of Haswell coming out yet. And you can get it with a Core i5, a couple of different Core i5 models, and a Core i7. The base Core i5 is the 3337U. That's the 1.8 gigahertz slightly revised Ivy Bridge CPU we've seen bouncing around that's used in a lot of consumer notebooks, and that's going to be the least expensive option for this. That's the one that's currently $923 on Lenovo's website, paired with 4 gigs of DDR3 RAM. For storage on ours, we have a 500 gig spinning hard drive. You have your choice between different capacities, different speeds of hard drives, or an SSD drive. Our benchmark numbers are not wildly high because, well, it has a 5400 RPM 500 gig hard drive, not the fastest thing, and benchmarks do love fast SSD drives. You can also order it with 8 gigs of RAM if you want from Lenovo. Obviously, we have the Windows 8 model here, and we got the upper end Core i5 1.9 gigahertz 3437U. So for those of you who need Intel security management features in your chipset, deeper virtualization options, those are available. You can actually order this with up to 12 gigs of RAM. There's 4 gigs soldered on board, and there's a single DIMM slot, so that's how you can get there. You can put an 8 gig DIMM in, for example. It is also available with Sierra Wireless if you need wide area networking available, 3G, that kind of thing, or also Gobi 5000. It has dual band Intel Centrino Advanced N6235. We've seen that in a lot of notebooks. Good to have dual band on board, so you can get that 5 gigahertz band, a little bit less interference from Bluetooth and the myriad access points that are in most people's environments these days, and you get Bluetooth 4.0, which is integrated in with that Intel Wi-Fi module. In terms of performance, on PC Mark 7, it scored a 2869. That number seems kind of low compared to some of the Ultrabooks we reviewed. That's because those usually have SSD drives, and our ThinkPad T431s here has a 500 gig spinning hard drive, which is slower, and PC Mark loves fast SSD drives. So don't be too worried about that. Certainly in terms of computing power and RAM, it's doing just fine. So you can see here on our Windows Experience Index, the CPU, the Core i5, scored 7.1, RAM is 5.9, 4.5 for graphics, for desktop graphics that is, 3D graphics 6.2, and 5.6 for disk data transfer rate. That is slower than average. For a conventional spinning hard drive, we usually see a 5.9. Don't know what's going on with that, but well, you might want to opt for the faster 7200 RPM hard drive or an SSD drive in this. I know I would. If I was spending the money, honestly, it's worth it. Say you spend 10% more, you're going to get something that's going to be faster, more enjoyable for longer, if you can afford it. Since this is basically an Ultrabook with a 14-inch screen, you can do anything you want in terms of Windows World here. Yes, you can get with Windows 7 or 8, as I said, but you've got your full desktop right here. You can do Photoshop, you can do database work, you can do development work, you name it, stream video, play video. Not my favorite screen for watching video on, but we do have a mini display port on this guy and a VGA port, and we have Intel dual band Wi-Fi that is WiDi capable, even though that software is not preloaded on this. So a lot of options for getting your content out to a bigger display and a better display at that. So now we'll test out HD video playback. This is an MPEG-4 high-profile clip. Right now we have display brightness set to maximum, and we've disabled Intel Adaptive Display, which can cause some of this flickering that you're seeing right here that the camera picks up. The human eye can't, so don't worry too much about that. But for some reason, it's still doing it a bit. Anyway, let's give it a try.
Supposed to happen.
Wow, speakers. 70% volume right now. So it plays just fine, and obviously it's loud enough to fill a conference room if you want to share a presentation. Everybody's going to be able to hear that. No need for external speakers. In terms of additional security features, our model also has a fingerprint scanner that's right over here to the side of the keyboard with a trusted platform module. So for those of you who need security on the go, important to have. And one thing I want to mention, the keyboard backlight, that is optional. So if you want that, make sure that that is on your order for this model. As ever with the ThinkPad, you get the little red ThinkPad light being the eye and the word ThinkPad lighting up to let you know when the guy is sleeping. And speaking of battery life and sleeping, it has a 3-cell battery, 47 watt hour. Not a huge battery there. And Lenovo claims up to 9 hours of battery life. And I would say they mean with an SSD drive, which uses less power. So far, we've been managing about 5 hours, which is perfectly adequate for a business notebook. It doesn't have a huge heavy battery there inside weighing you down either. So trade-offs that we make. How would it do with Haswell? We're just going to have to wait and see. I don't know how long off that is into the future for this guy since it's still fairly new. In terms of heat, it does not get too hot to the touch. Magnesium alloy could transfer a lot of heat, but honestly it's still thick enough, and it's got the twin owl style cooling fans that are very quiet also, that doesn't get too hot to touch, does not exceed human body temperature so far when I've used it for business tasks and even streaming HD video. Likewise, it stays pretty quiet. Lenovo's owl fan blade shape that they're so proud of with the dual fans here is very effective. It keeps it cool. It doesn't go blasting air in an embarrassing way when you're sitting in a conference room. So that's Lenovo ThinkPad T431s. It's available now on Lenovo's website, starting at $923 as of today in the US. You know, Lenovo, their website prices change all the time. You get a pretty decently configured machine, as we mentioned, for the price. And really, I love everything about this except for the screen. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.